Hello, my wonderful and beautiful friends. Welcome to a long, super dramatic video that I bet you won't dare to skip. Today, I've picked out 3 stories from Reddit that will make you angry, confused, and maybe even a little sympathetic. What do we have? A nightmare neighbor who destroyed someone's yard in an unbelievable way, a mother who called CPS because her daughter almost burned the house down while baking, and a confession about selling pregnant belly videos that left me speechless, thinking, what the heck? I hope you enjoy these stories, just don't shake your head too hard. And as always, you can send or link your own posts to this email right here. Let's dive in. Story 1, Drama, My Neighbor Destroyed My Yard. First up, we're diving into our /legal advice, the subreddit where real-life drama explodes like New Year's fireworks. The OP, original poster, shares that they live in a peaceful neighborhood, the kind you'd think only exists in movies, white picket fences, birds chirping, and perfectly manicured lawns. In OP's yard, there were 3 magnificent old trees, the kind that felt like living history. They loved them so much that they even named them Bob, Sue, and Larry. Cute, right? I bet OP even whispered, "Bob's looking good today," while watering them. But then, drama struck from next door. Enter Mr. K, not his real name, because if he ever watches this video, that would be awkward. Mr. K lived right next to OP and, for some reason, wasn't a fan of the trees. OP mentioned that a few branches from Sue, the middle tree, hung slightly over the fence. Nothing major. But to Mr. K, this was a life-or-death issue. Instead of talking it out like a normal person, he took matters into his own hands. And by that, I mean he hired an entire tree removal crew, who marched straight into OP's yard and chopped down all 3 trees, Bob, Sue, and Larry, without even a heads up. At this point, you might think, okay, but at least they cleaned up, right? Nope. Not only did the tree crew massacre the trees, but they also left behind a pile of branches, sawdust, and literal trash, yes, actual garbage, right in OP's yard. OP wrote, "I came home, opened my door, and my yard looked like a war zone. There were even soda cans the workers left behind." Can you imagine? A once dreamy yard, now buried under dead branches, leaves, and crushed soda cans, probably the cheapest kind you'd find at a discount store. OP had to shell out $500 to rent a dumpster and clean up the mess, while Mr. K just shrugged from across the fence like, "I did you a favor. You should be grateful." At this point, I wanted to jump into Reddit and scream, "Mr. K, who do you think you are? The king of the neighborhood? Or are you in some kind of survival game where the first one to cut down trees wins?" But the drama didn't end there. OP added that a few weeks before, they had actually caught Mr. K staring at the trees with this creepy expression, like the kind of look a villain gives before committing something sinister in a horror movie. OP assumed he was just mildly annoyed. Turns out, he was strategizing tree destruction. After cleaning up, OP confronted Mr. K. They knocked on his door and asked, "Why didn't you talk to me first?" And Mr. K's response? "I thought you didn't really care about those trees." Can you believe that? Didn't care? OP named them like beloved pets. I think Mr. K knew exactly what he was doing. If he had asked for permission, OP would have said no, which meant he would have had to pay for trimming the overhanging branches himself. So instead, he pulled this sneaky move. Then OP turned to our /legal advice and asked, "Can I sue?" And the comments exploded. Team lawsuit, sue him. He crossed the line. Those trees were your property, he has to pay. Team peacekeeper, ugh, lawsuits are expensive. Just move on. Not worth the hassle. Team petty revenge, plant new trees, but this time put up a sign, "No Mr. K allowed." I'm personally on Team Sue. If someone turned my yard into a garbage dump, I would not let that slide. But wait, there's more. OP later updated their post with a shocking twist. Mr. K had done this before. Another neighbor commented, saying that Mr. K had once dug a giant hole in their yard, claiming he was fixing a pipe, without permission. Then he just left the hole there for a month. At this point, I had to wonder, is Mr. K just a professional menace? I can totally picture him standing there, holding a chainsaw, smirking like, today, trees. Tomorrow, what next? Now, here's my personal theory. What if Mr. K hated the trees because they blocked his window view? Or maybe he's just one of those people who despise nature and only want concrete yards? Whatever the case, OP is still considering legal action, and honestly, I hope they go through with it. What do you think? If this happened to you, would you sue? Get revenge? Or plant new trees and set up cameras to watch Mr. K 24/7? Let me know, I'm dying to hear your thoughts. Story 2, Controversy, Calling CPS because of a baking incident. Next, we step into r/Ada, the subreddit where people ask themselves, am I the bad guy? This story revolves around a mother, let's call her M, and her 8-year-old daughter, who lives with M's ex-husband, T. It all started when M called to check in on her daughter, just like any normal mom would. How are you? What did you do today? The little girl excitedly shared, I baked in the kitchen, but I forgot to turn off the oven. M chuckled and asked, how long did you forget? The answer nearly made her drop her phone. Oh, just 3 hours. Did you hear that right? 3 hours. The oven was left on for 3 whole hours, with an 8-year-old in the house, and no one noticed. M described how, by the time her daughter realized, the kitchen walls were covered in black soot, the whole apartment reeked of burnt food, and it had almost turned into a full-blown fire hazard. Reading this sent chills down my spine. Imagine a little girl standing in a smoky kitchen, completely unaware of the danger around her. If it were me, I'd be screaming, who left her alone? M immediately called T, her ex-husband and the custodial parent, to ask what had happened. And here's the part that made my blood boil. T casually replied, kids forget stuff. No big deal. No big deal? 3 hours with an oven on is no big deal? M pressed further and found out that T wasn't even home at the time. He had gone out, leaving their daughter alone to do whatever she pleased. M wrote, I asked him how he was supervising her, and he told me not to overreact. Kids need independence. Independence? At 8 years old, with a fire hazard? I wanted to reach through the phone and yell, do you think this is a cartoon where kids just figure things out magically? But the drama didn't stop there. M wasn't the type to sit back when her child's safety was at risk. She started recalling other times T had been careless, like when their daughter spilled boiling water on her hand, and he just laughed it off, saying, pain makes you stronger. Or when she fell down the stairs because T had left the door wide open and never bothered to fix it. M thought, that's it. I can't let my daughter live like this. So, she did something that I bet will split your opinions. She called CPS, Child Protective Services, to report that T wasn't providing proper supervision. CPS showed up at T's house the very next day. They saw the soot-covered oven, asked the little girl a few questions, and noted that T didn't seem very concerned about supervising her. The result? T went absolutely ballistic. He called M, screaming, you drama queen. You called CPS to ruin my life? Don't even think about talking to our daughter again. He cut off M's phone contact with their child, leaving her both worried and second-guessing herself. She went to Reddit and asked, I just wanted to keep my daughter safe, but now I'm wondering, did I overreact? At this point, the Reddit comments exploded like a time bomb. The first camp, Team M did the right thing, argued, safety first. He nearly let the house burn down, and he still doesn't care? Calling CPS was the bare minimum. The second camp, Team T has a point, countered, calling CPS over this might have been too much. She should have talked to him first. Kids forget things, it happens. One user even joked, if CPS showed up every time I forgot something in the oven, they'd have confiscated my whole kitchen by now. I laughed but also felt the tension. Then M added another update that made things even messier. Apparently, T had bragged to her before about how he let their daughter cook by herself since she was 6, to teach her independence. 6? Look, I'm no parenting expert, but a 6-year-old alone in a kitchen with an oven and sharp knives? that sounds more like a horror movie than good parenting. M also shared that their daughter had once called her crying because T had left her alone for an entire evening, with only a note that said, "Watch TV if you get bored." After hearing that, I completely sided with M. If I were her, I wouldn't be able to tolerate T's lazy parenting either. But wait, I have a theory for you all to consider. What if T isn't just careless, but overconfident? Maybe he genuinely believes, I grew up independent, so my kid should too. But T, buddy, back when you were a kid, there weren't modern ovens that could turn a house into ashes in an hour. Or maybe he's just pretending to be nonchalant to mess with M, like, she worries too much, I'll show her I'm fine. Whatever it is, I think M was right to be concerned. Here's another perspective, though. What if CPS wasn't called, and one day, something really terrible happened? What if the house actually caught fire? M would blame herself forever for not taking action sooner. On the other hand, calling CPS right away might have been too drastic, as it's now caused a permanent rift between her and T, not to mention the emotional impact on their daughter. I'm stuck in the middle, fully supporting M's concerns but also feeling a tiny bit sorry for T, just a little. What about you? If you were M, would you have called CPS? Or would you have given T another chance, maybe showing up at his house and yelling, "If you don't fix that oven situation, I will"? I'm super curious to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments, and if you've ever had family drama like this, I'm all ears. Story 3, strange but touching, selling pregnant belly videos. Finally, we arrive at our /confession, the subreddit where people spill their deepest secrets, and this story is one of those confessions that left me both surprised and touched. OP starts with a very simple line, "I sold videos of my pregnant belly when I was 19. Sounds weird, right? But as you read the full story, you'll understand why they did it, and you might feel more sympathy than judgment. OP shares that they got pregnant at 19, an age when most people are still focused on studying, hanging out, or figuring out how to afford bubble tea. But for OP, life was a mess. Their boyfriend had left the moment he found out about the pregnancy, and their family wasn't supportive. OP wrote, "I was living in a tiny rented room, 2 months behind on rent, and my fridge was so empty that I was surviving on dry bread for a week." Can you imagine? A 19-year-old girl, with a growing belly, sitting in a cold, empty room, unsure of what the future holds. I felt sad just reading it. Then one day, while browsing the internet, probably in a desperate attempt to find ways to make money, OP stumbled upon a strange corner of the web. They discovered that some people were willing to pay for videos of pregnant bellies. Not anything inappropriate, just simple clips of a round belly, maybe rubbing it, talking to the baby, or showing stretch marks, something every pregnant woman experiences. OP thought, I'm not doing anything morally wrong, just recording my belly. No face, no danger. So they decided to give it a try. They wrote, I was terrified, but at that moment, I had no other choice. OP borrowed a friend's phone, since their own had been broken for a long time, and filmed short videos. The first clip was just them sitting on the bed, rubbing their belly, whispering, "Mommy will be okay, don't worry." They uploaded the video to some obscure website, I have no idea which one, but probably some black market type site, and waited. To their surprise, within a few hours, someone actually paid for it. OP made $50 from the first video, and over the next few weeks, they managed to earn a few $100s. They wrote, it wasn't much, but it was enough to buy diapers, a used crib, and a few clothes for my baby. At this point, I felt both weirded out and touched. Weirded out because, who on earth is paying for this? I assume it must be people with very specific interests, the kind I don't even want to understand. But touched because OP was in such a desperate situation that this was their best option. Just imagine, a young girl, fighting against the world alone, filming videos in a rundown room just so her baby could have something to wear. I just wanted to reach through Reddit and hug her, saying, you have nothing to be ashamed of. You did what you had to do. But the drama doesn't stop there. OP shares that making these videos wasn't as easy as they thought. Since they were borrowing a friend's phone, They had to lie, saying, "I'm recording videos to send to my family." But one day, the friend got curious and asked, "Why do you keep recording but never send them?" OP panicked and made up an excuse, "Oh, I'm still editing them." They wrote, "I was so scared of being caught that my hands would shake every time I picked up the phone." I can just picture OP sitting there, belly big, recording while constantly glancing at the door, afraid someone would walk in, like something straight out of a suspense movie. And then, the creepiest part, OP received a message from a buyer asking, "Would you be willing to film the actual birth?" OP immediately refused because they didn't want to go that far. They wrote, "I just wanted to make money for my baby, not sell my entire life." Reading that, I felt both relieved that OP had boundaries and disturbed by how bizarre the internet can be. Who even asks that? I started wondering, was that buyer even a normal person? Or some kind of weird researcher or something? Let me throw in a theory, OP is probably not the only one who has done this. I bet there are tons of other people, pregnant women, struggling individuals, who have filmed similar videos just to survive. It makes me think about how life can push people into situations they never imagined. OP ended their post with a heartbreaking line, "I'm not proud, but if I hadn't done it, I don't know if my baby would have been born safely." I want to pause here and reflect with you all. If you were 19, broke, alone, and only had your pregnant belly as company, what would you do? I'm not sure I would have had OP's courage. Maybe I would have just broken down and begged for help. But OP chose to save themselves, even in the strangest way possible. What do you think about this story? Have you ever done something unusual to get through a tough time? Or do you know someone who has? Share your thoughts in the comments, I really want to hear them. And finally, I truly hope OP is doing okay now. I imagine them today as a strong mother, telling their child this story when they grow up, like, "Sweetheart, I once recorded belly videos so I could buy you this crib." And I hope that child gives OP the biggest hug, because after everything they went through, they deserve it. So, that's 30 minutes of Reddit drama for you, one nightmare neighbor ruining a lawn, a heated CPS debate over an oven, and a bizarre yet touching story about selling pregnant belly videos. Which one was your favorite? Or do you have a real-life drama story even crazier than these? Let me know in the comments, I read everything. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because I know you wouldn't want to miss out on deep dives like this. Thanks for sticking around until the end, and I'll see you next time.